I'd like to go through the materials we'll need to make this forest floor surface to stitch into later. We'll start with Vilene, craft Vilene S80. That's the thickness. It's a nice weight. It takes any media quite readily and nice to stitch into. Then we have some scrims and bits of lace cut up. We use a bit of tissue that we can scrunch. This is ordinary scrim, often sold for dyeing. This is a gauze bandage. I bought this at the chemist. It comes in a little roll that when you open it up it goes on forever and ever. This is some eyelash yarn, which adds another texture. And you will need some skeleton leaves. These come in various shapes and sizes. I've got some of the smaller sizes here because I'm only working on a small piece. We'll also need some matte medium, some acrylic gesso, some acrylic paints. I try and keep within one colour family, so I have orange, yellows and a sienna. I put a bronze in just because it adds an extra colour, and as a contrast I've got a pithala green and a turquoise. When you mix that green with the burnt orange it makes a really lovely deep brown, so though I have burnt umber here I probably won't be using it. You'll also need some gilt cream or treasure gold, any of the metallic gold waxes, just to finish the piece off. Then of course you'll need some brushes to apply the matte medium, gesso and paint, and a palette knife or room card, credit card to put the gesso on. I also suggest you work on a Teflon sheet, as the matte medium can go through the Vilene quite readily and you'll end up with it stuck to your table. Right, we will start with the matte medium. Cut up some of the scrims and gauze and even the eyelash yarn. The tissue obviously we can rip, and there are some bits of lace already cut. I don't use too much lace, but it does add an extra texture. I'll lay the gesso, I'll lay the medium onto the Vilene and add the pieces of my fabric on top of this. And the Vilene can be quite thirsty, so make sure that you do both sides of what you're adding to make sure it sticks down properly. If there's any pieces that you're not too sure that they will stay, of course you can always put a piece of a scrim over the top to add as an anchor. When you've added a few pieces like this, start adding the leaves. The leaves do have a good side and a bad side, the bad side being the back side of the leaf, which has a more pronounced rib. Now I like that side to catch the colours and the gilt cream later, so I prefer that side up if I can. Make sure that all's all pasted down. Then you just keep adding. scrunched up tissue. Like so. As you can see, we're after many layers of the texture. I don't mind putting things on top of each other. It all adds to the richness of the surface. We're after the forest floor effect here, so think of how deep and full of interest that is. Again, I'm just using a little bit of scrim just to secure some areas. I think I'm just about done now, so I will leave that to dry and come back to you later. I just thought I'd show you, whilst we're waiting for things to dry, some other surfaces I've used to do this with. This is actually the Craft Violin S80. As you can see, it stays flexible and is very easy to stitch through, hand or machine. This was an experiment using calico, which of course is very flexible. On this one I've used the eyelash yarn, the leaves and the scrim. This is on watercolour paper. You can hand stitch through it, easily to machine stitch through it as well. Probably best using a stronger needle or a bradawl awl to get through that. As with this one, which is on a craft board, fairly stiff cardboard, as you can see, and this also has the addition of some foil underneath, probably sweetie wrapper, which adds another texture and a glint of colour. And this is on a piece of black mount board I had, and this has the addition of eggshells and those tiny beads that you can get that are in a glue. I don't know if I can get that up close enough where you can see and it stays in focus. Just in there, there's some, they've attached themselves in some of the grooves. It's very sea spumy like that one. Now these are eggshells I use. I do bake them just to make them hygienic and clean. You can crush them into quite small pieces to add if you wish, I have done this on Luchador, and I have used heat to distress the back side, but as soon as you put acrylic paint or the gesso or even too much matte medium, of course you lose the ability to heat it and it fracturing. So you could do it with care and leave some areas that you could then heat. That would leave a nice area too. You have to experiment with the backgrounds. Main thing is that they can be stitched in afterwards. I'm now going to go in with some gesso. I'm going to use a palette knife to pick up a very small amount of gesso and just lightly scrape the surface. This helps to merge the pieces together. Again, adds another texture. But if you think of it as the soil on the forest floor, it will be in all the little nooks and crannies. And will cover most areas, and you can add its own texture by patting and scraping, shaping. Because it goes into the little grooves of the leaves and the scrim, it gives them a slightly different shape as well. You can use, sorry I'm not quite thoroughly dry in that corner, you can use a room card or credit card. If you think it's too big, you can always cut a slice off and just add it this way. Just keep going over the surface, not all of the surface, just select areas. Adding the gesso to tie everything together. It makes everything sit nicely. You must try and remember the edges as well. You know you'll get a really lovely piece near the edge, but the edge itself won't be totally finished. Again, leave this to thoroughly dry.